of the 500 people that hit your website, 2, 3, maybe 10 actually reach out. We're able to surface the other folks.
It's always been figuring out the best way to grab data from individuals, mine your own data to not spend thousands and thousands of dollars of marketing and really hone in more on the top of the funnel.
Over 90% of people say that they've had a good enough experience with their advisor that they'd be willing to refer. And 51% say that they have referred. How many clients do I have? And ask yourself, did you get 50% of those folks to actually make an introduction? The answer is probably no. And yet organic growth in this industry across the board is 3%. That's the difference right there. We audited 30,000 advisor websites. The scores were below 50 on a scale of 1 to 100. Your website may look pretty, but it's still invisible when someone's online or in the large language models. They're recommending your competition, not you, because your site's not visible to those models.
I saw on the homepage, advisor can just type in their website, and the amount of information you guys can generate for an advisor has been incredible.
Don't be the person who goes to a conference or listens to a podcast and resonates with a handful of things that were shared, and then you go do nothing with it. When you spend money on marketing in this industry, after about 12 months, you get a 1.2x return. So call it you're breaking even, right? Roughly speaking.
Be consistent, be patient, and have to be disciplined.
Also, don't be the person who
systems work, people fail. Welcome to InsureMark's Advisor Mentorship Podcast with Vice President Jeremy Hauser.
Welcome back to this week's episode of the Advisor Mentorship Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Hauser. And as we continue on this trend of interviewing entrepreneurs, talking about all things entrepreneurial advisors out there in the field, best practices, pretty excited about our next guest here as we continue to shine a light on some opportunities of advisors becoming more efficient in their business and also just learning from some of those out there that are having success, especially here in the tough part of 2026. Our next guest is David DeCelle, who is the co-founder and chief partnership officer of WealthReach, an AI-powered growth platform built for advisors, and CEO of Model FA and host of the Model FA podcast. How are we doing today, David?
I'm doing great, Jeremy. And I think both of our content is a testament to how well it can work. So I remember we first connected way back when on LinkedIn, looked at each other's content, and fast forward, here we are, have had multiple phone calls, recording an episode together. So we are living, breathing examples of this content actually being effective. So appreciate you having me on.
Of course, I couldn't agree more. And I think for the audience, especially as they get to know you a little bit more here on today's show, I think one of the recent conversations we've had, so I've had a couple people on, I'll have some future guests on as well too. So it seems like, and I'm not this like huge AI person. I say that probably on multiple episodes. I'm really not. But I'm also not naive to think that a business in today's world can't be ran more efficiently without leveraging some of that. So I am interested in talking with you and have the audience learn a little bit more about some of the strategies your team is looking into and helping advisors with. So without further ado, for those that maybe have not checked out the Model FA podcast or know a little bit about you, can you share a little brief summary of who you are and what you're doing in the financial space currently?
Yeah, of course. So I actually got my career started as a financial advisor, fresh out of college, and spent 7 years doing that, building up a book of business. And in that experience, I also ran our new advisor development program. So I was tasked with any new hires that we had, getting them productive and helping them start to build their business. And throughout that process, I just fell in love with the idea of developing other humans. And I thought to myself, hey, I could bring on 50, 60, 70 clients a year like I had been over 7 years, or I could teach 10, 100, 1,000 advisors to do that same thing. Because I got into the business to have impact on people and their financial lives. And it was my way of helping multiply that impact. So I left being an advisor, got into consulting, and for the last 8 years, I've been in the consulting space with Model FA, really helping advisors and firms with their organic growth strategies. So helping them help more people. And throughout that process, with the rise of AI, we realized that there's a lot of opportunity to continue to help with organic growth, but leverage technology to become more efficient, increase the volume of outreach, to in turn increase the likelihood that you have an opportunity to impact more people's lives. So last year, in effort to support the consulting work that we were doing, we launched WealthReach, which has a number of different components to it, all related to organic growth, all for the purpose of helping more people.
Thanks for sharing that. One of the things that really stuck out throughout the course of getting to know you, a little bit about your team, and then some of the work that you're doing for advisors, data is just it. I've kind of said it for years now. I know a lot of the advisors we work with, it's always been figuring out the best way to grab data from individuals and then mine your own data to hopefully not spend thousands and thousands of dollars of marketing and really hone in more on the top of the funnel, focusing on people. So I know that's something your team's been looking at. So what are some of the things and key opportunities you see for advisors based off of using AI when it comes to getting in front of new people today?
Yeah, well, you bring up the idea of data, and I think back to when I was an advisor, I built my business really in two different channels. One was client referrals, and referrals from my natural market. But then also I leveraged LinkedIn as well, through messaging folks to even cold calling folks. Like I averaged just over 50 phone calls a day that I would do. And I would target people on LinkedIn based on their job title, based on their company. I niche down to specific companies, and that whole process and flow worked, but it required a lot of work to be able to find those people. Whereas today, data there's the data portion, and then there's the what do you do with it portion.
Mm-hmm.
So today, WealthReach specifically, the data that we have access to is when people hit your website, knowing who actually hit the site. So not just seeing 500 people hit my website this month, but who those people actually are. There's a lot of tools out there right now that focus on things like money in motion. Someone passes away, maybe there's an inheritance, someone gets divorced, maybe there's a transition or transfer of assets and they need help with that. And those tools have their place. They're very complementary to what we have, but we're more focused on people in motion. So these are people who are on your website, actually doing research on you and your firm. But of the 500 people that hit your website, 2, 3, maybe 5 or 10 actually reach out to book an appointment or download a lead magnet or fill out a contact form. We're able to surface the other folks so that you can proactively reach out to them. And I'll get to that in a moment. The other source of data that didn't exist back when I was an advisor is what's called offsite intent data. So these are people who are not on your website, hence offsite, but they have intent. They're currently doing research on the things that you do. So the first people who are doing research on you and your firm. The second set of data are people doing research on what you do. So if you're a financial advisor, maybe they're looking up financial planning, retirement planning, tax planning, investment management. Maybe they're looking up life insurance, annuities, things of that nature. And they're just online searching for this stuff. We have the data to show that Jeremy Hauser 3 days ago was going deep in his research on retirement planning. Jeremy, in that example, is probably a good person to reach out to. So those are the two sources of data that we have. But then with AI, we're able to actually streamline the outreach. So we can either export that data and run ads directly to those people, So not lookalike audience based on demographics and geographics, but targeting Jeremy specifically with an ad that's relevant to what he was searching. So if he was on my estate planning page, we can run an estate planning ad to him. So that's one way to reach out. It makes your ad spend way more efficient. The second way you can reach out is via email, but not templated emails. You can kind of sniff those out, from a mile away. We, with AI, are able to personalize each and every email to be hyper specific to that person. And we're able to do the same thing on LinkedIn as well. And then really going back to my days as an advisor, making 50 phone calls a day, trailing those if they haven't opted in yet to meet with you, trailing those folks with a phone call increases the conversion drastically if you're willing to do that level of work as well. So data today is way more accessible, way more refined, way more specific than it ever has. And with the power of AI, you're able to streamline and personalize your outreach at scale.
North American has redesigned their award-winning Secure Horizon suite of FIAs to be more resilient in volatile markets. And effective March 10th, they added the S&P 500 Distance Stabilizer Index. This measures volatility over multiple recent time periods, which allows for flexibility to navigate short-term spikes and increase exposure during subsequent market rebounds. It aims to track the pure S&P 500 without a fixed volatility target, bonds, or commodities. It's available on the 1-year, the 2-year, and also their very popular laddering strategy. They have also recently added the straight S&P 500 annual point-to-point cap strategy to this suite of products. Not that commissions are important, but North American is also running a 1% commission on all of the Secure Horizon FIAs effective March 1st. When is the end date of this special, you may be asking? Well, at this point, there is no end date. So take advantage of this opportunity now. For more information on the North American suite of products, feel free to go to www.insuremarkamp.com/J Hauser and click on Learn More. A lot to digest. So we had a lot that we're going to cover on today's episode. So I think, well, one thing specifically too, and that's why I really wanted to bring you on for a couple things. And one of the things that I thought was pretty interesting is advisors today. We did a study last year. There was a person who recently was on the show talking about numbers, and it still seems like 50% of some of the higher offices, the higher, I would say, achieving offices out there in the financial space, majority is coming from gaining wallet share from current clients, and then also referrals. Close to about 50% of the new business that was generated last year from these top 150 groups came from those two. So what are some ways that you're seeing advisors have an opportunity to get enhancement or better referrals? Like, what are some of the things that are working today and it's not costing an arm and a leg to get more referrals, at least from your seat of what you see?
Well, that's the thing. When you juxtapose it to what I just shared, like that data costs money, the AI tokens cost money, running ads cost money, referrals cost time. And you're able to structure it in such a way to where that time that you spend with your clients also helps deepen the relationship with them. So it's not just a one-sided, meeting with them where you're asking for referrals. And frankly, some of the folks that do this the best never actually ask for referrals. So one of my good friends and co-authors of a book that we wrote called Organic Growth Revolution, his name is Dan Allison. And he's spent the last 22 years, his background's behavioral psychology. And he spent the last 22 years, the lion's share of that in partnership with Dimensional Fund Advisors, DFA. And they do an annual client survey every year to hundreds of thousands of clients around the world. And he's helped author a number of questions in that survey. And what he finds time and time again across hundreds of thousands of consumers, clients, is that over 90% of people say that they've had a good enough experience with their advisor that they'd be willing to refer. And 51% say that they have referred, or at least they think they do. Now that's different than your 50% that you mentioned, because your 50% is relative to of the business they got last year, 50% came from referrals. Now, if you're listening to this, I want you to figure out, okay, how many clients do I have? Is it 100? Is it 200? Is it 400? And ask yourself, did you get 50% of those folks to actually make an introduction for you? The answer is probably no. So there's a disconnect there. And that's one of the things that we're passionate about helping solve. So the way, Jeremy, that you go about this is through what's called an interactive client survey. So keyword interactive, this is not a digital survey that goes out. This is a conversation with your client. And it really fits into a few different pieces. And the conversation in its entirety is between 20 and 30 minutes. You can do it as a separate meeting altogether, or you can do it as a part of your review meeting. So it doesn't actually take up more of your time if you're building it into a review meeting that's already there anyways. Because a lot of times, unless there's a big life change on the client's end, you're filling time in that review meeting anyways. Fill it with this. And what you do is you start off by asking for feedback from your clients on their experience, on your communication with them, areas in which you can improve. We have a whole host of questions that are woven in to that first piece. The second part is what's called cross-education. So not cross-selling, but as a part of the survey and focus groups that Dan's run over the years, of the 25 different things that an advisor can help someone with, the client can only rattle off like 5 or 6 things. And the things that they're able to rattle off are the things that they experienced getting help on. So if they come across someone that they care about that has a different problem or a different opportunity than they had, they may not think of you in that moment. So it's important for you to cross-educate your clients so they have a full understanding around what you do. Because also sometimes their life progresses faster than yours, than your review cadence does with them. And you never want them to be in a position to have to go find help on something that you could have helped them with yourself. So cross-education is critical in this process. And then finally, the third piece is really a 2-part piece. Number 1, just simply making them aware that, hey, just want to let you know, over the next quarter, we have the capacity to help another 6 to 8 folks. So if there's ever someone that you care about that's looking for some help, just know that we have the capacity to serve them. Now, in that moment, you're going to hear often, oh yeah, I talk about you all the time. Or yeah, I was just talking with my friend Steve and I gave him your information, right? Think back and it's probably more than you care to admit, but how many times you heard someone say, oh yeah, I gave your name out. You should be hearing from them. And you say, thanks. And then Steve never reaches out. So the second piece of this is once you let them know that, hey, you have capacity, there's no question there, right? It's just, hey, we have capacity to help more people. The second piece of it is if you do ever come across someone that's looking for some help, and that may never happen, right? Reduce the sales pressure. If you do come across someone that's looking for some help, and that may never happen, but if it does, what we've found increases the likelihood that they get the help that they were seeking in that moment is if they're open to it, just put us in an email together. That way, myself and my team can hop in and help facilitate an initial chat with them. So you're garnering feedback from them, which it's weird. Advisors, sometimes their initial reaction is, oh, my clients are busy. Like, I don't want to bother them with this. But the clients are so appreciative that you even pause to ask for their feedback in the first place. It's the opposite reaction that most advisors expect. You're then cross-educating them on the services, making them aware that you have capacity, and then teaching them how to best make an introduction. Because your clients are referring, they're not introducing. And that's the disconnect between 91% willing to refer, or over 90%, I should say, 51% think they have, and yet organic growth in this industry across the board is 3%. That's the difference right there. And as a side note, Jeremy, if any of your listeners reach out to you, I'd be happy to share. We have a masterclass video about the methodology. We have scripts and playbooks. I'd be happy to share that, directly with you to share with them. I don't need to position it as like a lead magnet or a bait and switch or anything. So I'd be happy to get that over to you if anyone wants more information on that.
What if you had a step-by-step roadmap showing you exactly how to build credibility, attract better clients, and close more annuity in IUL business without chasing leads? Well, friends, that roadmap does exist, and it's called the Authority Positioning Blueprint, and Advisor Authority AI generates a personalized version for you in just 15 minutes. It is built on the Amazon best-selling book, Authority Domination, by Authority marketing strategist Mike Saunders, and is available to you to implement immediately. Get your blueprint today at www.authoritytrustgap.com. Also, learn more about the full done-for-you authority positioning package Mike provides for our advisors at www.authoritypositioningcoach.com/insuremark. Very much appreciate it. No, that's great. And I think right now, especially because we chatted on our mastermind call with some of the guys and gals that we work with just last month. And I mean, reviews right now should be incredible because a lot of our advisors, I know you're for the most part in a different world, but in the same world with financial advisors, a lot of ours are doing a lot more insurance. So they do fixed index annuities, they do life insurance, but for the most part, and your background, for the most part, who you've been working with more so has been advisors doing like fee-based planning. And are you still doing independent at all? Or, I mean, you do independent, but just not a big focus in that area?
Most of my clients are in the RIA space, but and this either adds credibility or not, but I'll throw it out there. I am experienced in the insurance space as well. When I say I was an advisor for the first 7 years, that was at Northwestern. So very much, know the differences and the nuances between an insurance and planning focused style person and just a planning investment oriented, style person. And frankly, for what it's worth, I think there's a lot of fee only folks out there that aren't. I know this isn't part of what we plan to talk about, but there's a lot of folks who hold themselves out as fiduciaries and fee only, doing what's in the client's best interest, and yet they never bring up risk management. And I think that is a complete oversight on their end to bring in the full scope of planning. So sidebar, but
Yeah, and mainly for so I know a lot of the guys and so like when we were talking earlier this month with the advisors, and I mean some of the reviews have been incredible. So like the fixed index annuities, we've had a lot of indexes, a lot of customers who are locking in because annual point to points, 2-year point to points, last 2 years, last year or so have been really good. And so it's just another opportunity going back to what you just talked about is when customers are talking with their advisors, if they could just insert an additional step into that process instead of over the next 6 years, 8 years, 10 years of meeting with them on a client review, just giving them an update on currently just catching up with you. Hey, what's going on with your current or any updates needed on the beneficiary change form? Is there anything specific? So to add a level of questions towards the end of that actual review, like you just outlined, I think is very well, it should be very well received. So for those advisors that do want to add additional questions to that review, especially right now with a lot of the reviews that advisors are having, that should be doing really well in positive conversations. I think it's a great time to start to try that out because it's one of those things I hear from advisors. There's reluctancy of, for some reason, they don't ask. And have you ever done a study of that within the advisors you work with? Like, why don't they ask or why don't they put that into their process?
yeah, I'd say not like a formal study, but anecdotally,
Mm-hmm.
it's a handful of things. I'll try to summarize it succinctly. One is the fear of being salesy. or coming off as salesy. Number two, the fear of rejection. It's a different type of rejection when a prospect says no than when a client says no to whatever your ask is. So that holds people back. Number three would be, well, I want to just focus on the client. I don't want them to think that I'm growing. I'm looking for their help to grow my business. Like those are the three things that I hear the most. The fourth overarching is they don't have a system or a process to bring folks through. And the things that they learned, or at least what I learned in Northwestern, is like, I get paid in two ways. The best compliment you can give is like the salesy sort of, old school lines, so to speak. And they haven't yet come across an alternative. But one of the things that I've really tried to emphasize with them is, listen, you cannot grow your business until you're first able to help someone. So you bringing up this conversation, like no client has ever, at least that we've been able to document in Dan's research, no client has ever made note that they referred someone that they cared about because they wanted to help their advisor grow their business.
Mm-hmm.
They referred them because they wanted them to get help in that moment. So when you play a little bit of mental gymnastics and reframe your mindset to where, hey, this isn't about growing your business. It's about helping more people. As a byproduct, you end up growing your business and you feel way more sincere in whatever way you're comfortable with the topic, bringing up the topic of referrals. But until you get over that mental hurdle, it's going to feel very, very difficult, no matter what the language is that you're deploying. And rather than saying, here's the amount of assets I want to bring on this year, here's the amount of premium that I want to close this year, instead, I would encourage you to abide by your ideal client profile and then say, how many people do I want to help this year? And if that's 40 folks or 30 folks or 50 folks, and you stick to your ICP, you're going to hit your AUM, you're going to hit your premium, but it's going to feel way better because your initiative is to go and help people, not to grow your business. And it sounds so simple, but when I share that with someone who's stuck mentally, you can see them sigh of relief, their shoulders go down, and they remind themselves why they got into the business in the first place.
New product alert. Revel One Financial is continuing to rev it up. At Revel One Financial, their mission is to revolutionize how people feel, think, and experience retirement solutions. They are bringing unmatched agility, speed, and innovation to the fixed annuity industry. And now Revel One Financial just announced their latest product launch, introducing a CumRev fixed index annuity with a 10% 7-year guaranteed cap rate with the S&P 500 1-year point-to-point index interest rate on the 7-year product. Rate subject to change at any time, but you heard that right. 10% cap on the S&P 500 guaranteed for the 7-year contract. Acum Rev also has an index lock rider with 3 ways to lock in performance. Another launch, another leap forward. That's the Revel One Financial Cheetah Spirit, built for speed, designed to deliver. I think one of the things for advisors on listening to today's show, marketing. I mean, we've talked about that a little bit here this quarter with some of the partners that have come on the show. Do you see, so I do want to dive into data probably for a good chunk here. So data and marketing today. So what are some opportunities for advisors to be more efficient with their dollars? What data do they need in order to make sure that they are actually, I would say, playing into the niche of what they're looking to help customers, that they actually have a platform, their processes to help the best people? Like, what marketing data should advisors be focusing on for the remainder of the year and onward in order to grow their business this year, do you think?
You mean in order to help more people this year, Jeremy?
Exactly. Yes.
So I think before you go into the data conversation, the advisor first needs to understand and figure out who is it that they want to go and serve, and be crystal clear. You need to know exactly what you do to help them, how they feel when they're done working with you, or not done working with you, but when they start working with you and go through the process, I should say. And you need to be very, very clear on that, because your website, your content, be it videos, blogs, etc., your messaging, all needs to line up to that exact person that you're looking to help before you even get into data. So you need to be very, very clear as to who it is that you're trying to serve, what problems you solve, and how they feel as you help them solve those problems. From there, there's really a couple pieces of data that I think are very helpful. One is the offsite intent data that I mentioned earlier in the podcast. So once you have, I'm making this up. Actually, I have a client who's focused on this, so I'll use this as an example. Once you go and realize, okay, I'm going to work with SpaceX employees who are about to get a ton of money with the assumed IPO. One of my clients is doing this now, and they're cleaning up. And you then go and search those people, and we have a database. There's plenty of other databases out there that you can go and search. You can even go on LinkedIn and find these people, of course. But then you cross-reference, okay, of the however many SpaceX employees there are, which ones are online looking at RSUs, right? What to do with my RSUs, which ones are online looking at tax planning related topics. Like, those are the people that I would focus on. The other piece of data beyond the database that I would really lean into is, what are the key words and phrases that your ideal client profile is online searching right now, and build your content around that. So that could be videos, that could be blogs, that could be LinkedIn posts, that can be images with captions, but actually understanding today, what are people online researching that fit your ideal client profile, and building content on those exact topics so that as they're searching, you're more likely to pop up from an SEO and AEO standpoint. So when people are on Google, when people are on ChatGPT, or pick your LLM, asking questions and searching topics, you're more likely to pop up because you created a piece, you created a podcast, a video, whatever, that hits on the answer to their question. And Google, ChatGPT, et cetera, are more likely to put you in front of them. So I would say, from a data perspective, having an accurate database that also gives you access to what they're searching online, so you know the people, but then also based on your demographics of the ideal client profile that you have, what are they online searching about? So now you know the topics, and you're creating content for that. Those would be the two data sources I would focus on.
So many ways to go from that. That's scenario itself. So for advisors that are just starting, because this is like a new engine. So this is almost some of the traditional ways of advisors marketing and getting in front of their ideal people. They've done a lot of traditional ways of doing dinner seminars. They maybe promoted themselves within certain clubs in their area, radio, TV. So the usual suspects over the last multiple decades. And so where the opportunity is now inside of your phone almost, and inside the computer, to actually reach out and get engagement. And then now you have a component of leveraging certain tools to become more efficient in what you're doing with outreach itself. So how does an advisor even just start getting involved with bringing this new realm of I would say, marketing their ideal people, ideal prospects? How do they even start out on this journey? Obviously, they would work with a third party group, or like if they were just the LinkedIn people or the road warriors trying to start out, what are some like how to guide for the first two steps just to get used to this new wave of marketing?
I don't want to be overly self promotive, so I'll stay away from visit our website. I won't even share the website; it'll be in the show notes, I'm sure. But I think when you start with your niche or ideal client profile, you need to ask yourself and be able to answer three questions. One is this profitable? If you help these people, will you also be able to stay in business? You may be super passionate about helping elementary school teachers, but you're going to need to work with a lot of them to be able to run a profitable business. So, are they profitable? Are you passionate about working with them? When I was an advisor, I thought that I wanted to work with attorneys. I started meeting with attorneys, and I quickly realized that I am not passionate about working with attorneys. So, checking those two boxes is critical. They need to be profitable, and you need to have a passion around it. And oftentimes, early in your career, you don't know what you're passionate about. So, that's why you meet with anyone that can fog a mirror, so to speak, to find that passion. And then the third one, which is optional but helpful, is do you have some sort of in or some sort of natural affiliation with those folks? Do you already have a pocket of clients that work in this industry or work in that company, so to speak? Or do you have a spouse that works at the company that you want to nest in? So that's something that's very tactical. If you don't have that figured out, go and answer those questions, brainstorm. I also love the idea of using like a Claude or ChatGPT or whatever to just explain this situation to them and have it ask you a bunch of questions and interview you, and you answer the question and sort of use that as your coach, your consultant, your thinking partner, your sounding board. So you can also do that. Once you have that figured out, I assume everyone listening to this has a LinkedIn account, so you don't have to work with a data provider or a company like ours. You just go on LinkedIn and you start searching for those folks. You build your list. Now, you can't just connect with a million people, blast them with messages. And if you catch their attention, they look at your profile and there's nothing there. There's no credibility, right? You're just kind of spamming them, but making sure that you're creating and posting valuable content on LinkedIn, on all the other platforms as well, so that when they go from LinkedIn to Facebook to Instagram to wherever, you're there, you have a presence, and they feel like you're a real person and that you're holding yourself out in such a way that shows that you're looking to add value to people just like them. And then you can use tools like ours. You can use tools like SEMrush is one where you can do keyword research to get content ideas. There's another great company that's industry specific called Sage that can help you identify topics to do videos and other types of content around as well. But again, you can go to ChatGPT, go to Claude. And it may not be perfect. It may not be actual SEO data, but you can, now that you have your niche and your ICP identified, just ask, hey, put together a list of 20 topics for content that I can create. And then you can have that tool help you create that content as well. So there's like a budget friendly way to do it, which is spend $20 a month on Claude. Or there's the third party leverage dialed in and predictable way to do it, which can cost you 500, 1,000, 2,000 bucks a month. And the sky's the limit with how much you can spend. But if you're new to this, I'd suggest that you put in some sweat equity and like build good habits and then refine from there, as opposed to spending money right out the gate. You can get away with $20 a month and some good old elbow grease.
Big news from Ibexus. California is officially live. The Ibexus fixed index annuities, the FIA Plus, Wealth Defender, and Wealth Defender Bonus are now approved and available in California, opening the door to one of the largest retirement markets in our country. Advisors can now bring Ibexus solutions to California clients in competitive strategies designed to help win new business. And as an added benefit, Ibexus now supports both full and partial Roth IRA conversions, giving you additional tax planning flexibility for your clients. To learn more, visit ibexus.com, no login required, or contact the Ibexus sales desk at 888-717-1003. Contact them today. A lot of good stuff there. Are you, and so, well, one thing with y'all's website specifically, especially with WealthReach, it's so easy. Pretty unique. So literally I saw on the homepage, advisor can just type in their website, and the amount of information you guys can generate for an advisor. And that's where, as the world evolves and as financial advisor practices evolve, that's why I was very interested in chatting with you, is digging a little deeper into the components of what's out there, where you can just type in an advisor's website, and what type of information would an advisor get back from your team just by typing their name into wealthreach.ai, and they type their website in. What do they get back?
Yeah, so they get a full website audit. And we actually take it another step, and I want to say it's a 20-page report. And some of the feedback that we've gotten from folks is, this is a lot. They see the report, and a lot of them don't know what the information means. They just see red everywhere instead of green. So it's kind of alarming.
Yeah.
But they don't actually know how to go through that thoughtfully. So we actually changed it on the website, where you enter in your email and we run the audit for you. And before we send it with you, we have you book a call just so we can go over it with you. No sales pitch, no bait and switch, nothing, just debrief it with you. And then oftentimes people ask, can you fix it? And obviously the answer is yes. So it kind of turns into that, but we just want to make sure that people fully understand. Like here's the issue that we're finding. So we have an offering called Living Sites, and the websites in this space are, how should I put this? Invisible. And what I mean by that is, unless someone is searching your firm's name directly, you by and large do not pop up. We audited 30,000 advisor websites, and across the board, the scores were below 50 on a scale of 1 to 100, which means basic SEO, technical infrastructure on the back end of the website. Your website may look pretty, but it's still invisible when someone's online or in the large language models, typing in questions. Like, they're recommending your competition. They're not recommending you because your site's not visible to those models. So we basically help fix that. But the first thing is, we need to show you the problem with the audit report, which you put in your URL into our tool on the website. And then we book a call, walk you through it. And then you can take it to your team to fix it. We can help fix it if you'd like. But that's really what they get, is a full-blown 20+ page audit of every single thing on their website that is broken, so that they know what to fix. And whoever fixes it, is up to them. But at least we make them aware that, hey, this is an issue and it needs to be changed.
So with your team and what you guys have seen here over the last several months and then moving forward, so how do you see just AI data in general impacting the financial space? Open-ended question.
So I'm going to slightly change your question, and just talk about how AI affects our industry, as opposed to data. So, and I've said this for a number of months because it's moving so quickly. It seems like months is years, but really it's just months. But for a number of months where I think AI in this industry is going to further help DIY folks, like DIY investors, have better outcomes. And that's great because those people were never going to work with you anyways because they're DIY folks, right? Rarely do they end up working with an advisor. But I think the firms and the advisors who adopt AI into their workflows, into their marketing, into their operations, they're going to crush the firms who are stuck in their ways. They're going to be able to grow faster without having to hire as many people. And I'm a proponent, by the way, of AI allowing you to grow without having to hire more people or as many people as you normally would. I'm not a proponent of AI replacing people, assuming that if AI replaces their functions, you give them every opportunity and resources to reinvent themselves for another role in the firm that is still needed. And it's up to them if they want to take you up on that offer or not. But I think that the more folks lean into AI now, the further they can go with less people along the way. But at the end of the day, AI is transforming this industry. I believe in my heart of hearts, it's not going to replace advisors. There's still human to human connection that's needed. And I'm very bullish on that. But you can do a lot of good if you lean into AI to help run the business itself, which in turn allows you, going back to the theme of, or the unplanned theme of the episode, which is allows you to help more people.
I agree. And also, I mean, it's just a better way of living because you don't want to be doing below the line activities as a entrepreneur, business owner. And your people don't want to be doing all of that either. So if there's a way to maximize people, put them on projects they actually enjoy doing and just all in, they can put more of their time into clients refer more people, everybody's happy. So firms keep growing. If there was one thing for an advisor, I would say if you could give them one piece of advice, and they want to grow faster through better client experiences and smarter marketing, what advice would you give them from just listening to today's show and onward for this year?
I've gotten that question before, and my answer is always the same, which is I don't care what you do. I just care that you do. Do something. So don't be the person who goes to a conference or listens to a podcast and resonates with a handful of things that were shared, and then you go do nothing with it. Also, don't be the person who tries stuff. Be the person who does stuff and follows through. So I'm absolutely drawing a blank on the study in this moment, but there was a study done that showed when you spend money on marketing in this industry, after about 12 months, you get a 1.2x return. So call it you're breaking even, right? Roughly speaking. That's when a lot of people change it up, right? They do something else. And then they restart that clock. So the next 12 months, 1.2x. Oh, this didn't work as that well. All right, they try something else. But that same study noted that if you stick with what you started for 5 years, you get a 6x return. So the one takeaway, albeit general, is don't try stuff, do stuff. Don't listen to stuff, do stuff. And when you do decide to do something, be consistent with it and be patient. And if you spend enough time on the front end evaluating what you should do, it will work. I don't care if you're doing just videos or just blogs, or there's countless examples of someone who only does videos, or like a Root Financial. They're crushing it and they're huge on YouTube. Or someone who only does blogs, right? Someone who only does podcasts. You don't have to do it all, but you just need to pick something and stay consistent with it. So that would be my advice, is don't be the information zombie, so to speak, who has all the best ideas in their head, but they're just walking around aimlessly, not doing anything with them. And I've been there before too, so I get it. But pick something and do it. And then slowly but surely, you'll start to get results, but you need to start somewhere and you need to actually implement. No more, hoping and wishing. You got to do.
Good stuff. I agree. Be consistent, be patient, as you just said, and have to be disciplined. Good stuff. And as we're wrapping up, anything we missed for our final comments?
No, just appreciation for you having me on the show and giving me an opportunity to say some stuff. So I appreciate you.
Of course. You got some good stuff. And I know you got a lot more stuff. So, no, appreciate your time. And I know the topic is very timely as the world's moving fast, especially in the financial space. So appreciate all the work that you and your team are doing. For sure. So thanks for your time. And also thank you to the listener for tuning into this week's episode of the Advisor Mentorship Podcast. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite listening device and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Jeremy Hauser AMP. And remember, as you are sharing this episode with a friend and a colleague in a world full of betas, be an alpha.